Your next reflection will be about a mistake you have made. This is the second to last or penultimate short reflection you'll write this semester, and I think by now you're ready for the challenge of looking at yourself critically. All right, you know what to do. Describe a mistake you have made. How did you make amends for the mistake? What did you learn? As with all your papers, explode a moment, show don't tell, specificity over generality, objects over abstraction. Begin in medias res. Don't forget your title, 2 pages, 12-point font, double spaced. So, of course, I do have some examples for you to look at in Moodle, since I'm asking you to admit you're not perfect and talk about something that's pretty vulnerable. It's only fair that I make my own mistakes available to you. As always, I encourage you to look at those. Plus, we have student example that you can look at, which also I think is helpful. So picking a topic for this paper is an obvious minefield. I know that you might be nervous about sharing something so personal with me. You might feel uncomfortable writing about something that shows you're deeply flawed. So human. So let me give you the lowdown. If I have concerns about something you have written about, specifically about your well-being or health, I will talk to you about it before I do anything. Please contact ISU Counseling if you think you have a problem. It's free. Sometimes writing these papers can actually be pretty healing, so don't shy away from something that keeps jumping out at you to be written. You may finish your paper and realize you have blown the whole thing out of proportion and it wasn't really as bad as you thought. After finishing most of my papers, mistake papers, people will read them and say, that's the worst thing you did. They have no idea how these small little mistakes plagued me, and they seemed much bigger in my mind than they really were. The most important thing to recognize as you work on this is that you are a flawed human being like everyone else in this whole world, and you need to be kind to yourself. Mistakes are part of life, and I'd be concerned if you hadn't made any so far. In fact, the best writing is almost always based in our frailty and vulnerability as humans. So, it's a good thing. I want to highlight something Lynda Barry says in What It Is about mistakes and their relationship to writing and art. You'll be reading an excerpt from this graphic novel this week. She writes, "Kids I knew quit drawing and never drew again. It left behind too much evidence." She cites the time that a teacher called her mother after she had drawn a Playboy bunny in class. Artistic expression can be incriminating. It can show the world our shameful thoughts, our embarrassing mistakes, our nastiest conversations, our wickedest character traits, and our darkest moments. It reveals our guilt. But as Barry argues so convincingly in What It Is, this fear and shame can hold us back and keep us from being better artists and people. And when we come right down to it, all life is incriminating to some degree. The stuff of life is incriminating because we are gloriously flawed. We will make mistakes, but we learn from them and grow from them. As George Bernard Shaw wrote, if you cannot get rid of the family skeleton, you might as well make it dance. So today, if you look at the activities scheduled for this week, your main invention activity is using pro and con lists to determine the best mistake to write up for this reflection. Because of the challenging nature of writing about your own mistakes, I thought a pro-con list would be an appropriate invention activity for you to spend some time doing. As usual, it's good to do this activity early in the week so you have ideas running in the back of your mind over the next few days. Since you'll be sharing something vulnerable with me, let me share something vulnerable with you. This is an excerpt from my essay, Naked Silence. I had just finished a tough swim and a scalding hot shower. I was dripping wet and wrapped in a towel. There were two old ladies hovering where I needed to be near the swimming suit dryer. They made no effort to give me room as I put my dripping suit in the machine and set it spinning. They ignored me, continuing their conversation as I took my dripping suit to the bench. Don't you just hate it when foreigners don't respect American culture? They should just leave and go home if they don't like it. I've been over there. I've seen their dirty streets and their disorganized ways. Ours is a culture of order. That Michelle. This woman could barely contain her absolute disdain now. That Michelle should be grateful for all we did for her to get her where she is today. She has no reason to complain. Wait, is she talking about Michelle Obama, who should be grateful for all we did for her? Did she really just say that? Like right here in the open where anyone can hear her? She told an American citizen to go home? My hands were shaking as I sat there in my towel. I tried to focus on putting my fragrant oil on my face and body. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. They walked past my bench, and one of them said, "And kids these days just won't stop getting all upset about these little things. Then they just go out there and protest and don't even get in any trouble for it, so they just keep doing it. Honestly, I'm glad I'm old so I don't have to be around for much more of this complaining." I looked down at my clenched fists, rolling my eyes and fighting a feeble laugh as they leave. Oh, the irony of telling young people and Michelle Obama to stop complaining when these women themselves are so full of complaints. I heard the door swing shut. I started to cry, still sitting there in my towel, feeling ashamed for not saying anything in response to blatant racism. I let the vulnerability of being in a towel stand in my way of speaking up. But is that really an excuse? What is the cost of silence? All right, guys, happy writing, and I'm looking forward to reading your mistake essays.